For this video, I'm starting again with our previous exercise, which was designing this checkerboard JavaFX application. So this is where we were when we last stopped. Run this, there we go. And we have our checkerboard here in a pane. What we're going to do is, well, we're going to try to use a different approach, okay? Here we have been manipulating coordinates by hand in order to put the rectangle object exactly where we wanted them to be in the pane. But we have another type of pane that is actually meant to manipulate layouts that are, you know, shaped like a grid, shaped like a checkerboard, like a matrix. Okay, this is a grid pane. So what we're going to do in this exercise, we are going to try to convert this program. Okay, so I'm going to rename it real quick before to mess it up. Checkerboard grid. Yes, save anyway. I'm going to fix that in a minute. So we are going to try to modify this program so that it takes advantage of a grid pane. Okay, so everywhere I'm going to modify here so that we have now a grid pane, and I'm going to try to actually let the grid pane do all of the layout work for us. So let's see how we're going to be able to do that. So technically this should make our life a little easier. So I have a width and a height. I'm not going to change that. Okay, I'm going to change the name for, there we go. So I'm keeping the same dimension. I'm keeping obviously the same number of rows and column. All right. I have the same logic to determine the color. Now what I want to do here is I want to get rid of those coordinates. So there are multiple constructors for the rectangle class. Go and check the documentation. Okay, you're going to see that you can create an object of class rectangle also by just specifying its width and height. Okay, so this is what I want to do here. Give me a new rectangle, set the color of the stroke sure, set the color of the fill sure, and then add it to my pane. So now I'm using a different pane, right? So I do not need to do the getChildren.add. Okay, what I need to do is use the add method that allows me to say I want to add this object, so that rectangle, to this specific row. So I'm going to use I for row and J for column, for example. It doesn't really matter, but and this is how I specify that I want to add the rectangle at a certain coordinate. Okay, so it's not pixel-based coordinate, it's just the number of the row and the number of the column in the grid pane. Okay, well, let's see what we have as far as missing imports and the likes. Okay, well, we're still using our pane here somewhere. There we go. So where did we define it? There we go. We defined it as a pane. We created it as a grid pane. That's not going to work very well. There we go, better. Well, let's see what the result is. Okay, this is our result. It's not too bad, okay? For just modifying a few lines, we are actually pretty close to what we want. There is a little effect that was already part of the previous implementation, but that is really more apparent here. You can see how the lines make it look like the white squares are smaller actually than the black squares. Okay, all right, so this is something we are going to play a little bit with. Okay, it's not a big deal. To a certain extent it was already there in the previous one, but it's just due to the fact that we have we have a black stroke every time we draw a rectangle. So what we are doing here, because the grid pane is juxtaposing the rectangles, okay, we are going to have a black border for example, this black square, okay, this black cell. So we have a black border here on the right, and then the next grid cell start, and we have another black border for the white cell that's next to it. So that gives you this impression that, you know, it's kind of overtaking, you know, here the second cell. So we're going to kind of play a little bit with those options real quick. Okay, we saw that we had like a few things that we could do with a grid pane as far as, you know, controlling the spacing. So I can set an edge gap here, and I can say my edge gap is 1, and then I can set my vertical gap and say it's 1 as well. So I'm inserting 1 pixel so we can see exactly how the grid is panning out. So if I run this, All right, that's not exactly what we wanted. And by the way, you notice that when I started it, okay, I could not see the whole thing. Yes, because instead of having 8 cells that are each, 200 divided by 8, now I have a little bit more spacing, okay, 2 pixels in between each, okay. So that makes it not fit exactly anymore, with our base window. Well, we could fix that by enlarging a bit the base window, but that's not really a big deal. What's more interesting is that now you can really see the source of our problem, which is, that black border here on the black cell, the black border here on the white cell. So how can we try to fix this or make it a little less obvious for the list? Well, we are already here, using our color to alternate the fill content. So what if we were trying to get rid of the black border around the white cells? So we're going to try to do this, okay? So I'm going to rewrite this a little bit to make it more practical to use. So I'm going to say that the Boolean is white. I'm going to say that I have a color, which is going to be, well, let's say the color of my fill, all right? And this color is going to be based on the Boolean is white. So I'm going to use a ternary conditional operator. If the Boolean is set to true, then the color is white. Otherwise, the color is black. All right. And then I can use that, obviously, here. Okay, I can do a single set fill statement right there. So I can do r.set fill, and then I can say use my fill color that has been defined, and I get rid of that if-else statement. Okay. So if I do this, I haven't changed much yet. So I'm going to compile and run. Okay, there we go. I have really not changed much yet. I just made my code a little leaner. But more importantly, now, since I determine the color and then I use it, I can also say things like, well, the stroke around the square is going to be the same color than actually the fill inside the square. So if I do this, let's take a look. It's a little bit closer, eh? It's not yet fully there, but it's a little bit closer to what I wanted. So now the only thing that's, extraneous here is this gap that's horizontal and the vertical gap as well. So if I remove those guys, I remove the extra space. So there we go. My checkerboard fits again in the pane, and you can see that, we have something that is a little cleaner here around the edges.